Hello everyone, this is Nick from the Poisoner's Cabinet. At long last, Sinead has bullied me into getting in front of a camera and actually doing some videos. I promised I would do videos years ago, haven't done them, but here we are, the first of the Poisoner's Cabinet cocktail shenanigans. So today, for our first episode, we are going to have a chat about the essential bottles that you will need for your home cocktail making experimentations. And then some of the basic kit you will need as well to make your own creations. So please bear in mind this is what I like. And if you watch the podcast, you know exactly what sort of cocktails we enjoy. So I hope you're on board with that. Just to let you know that this is our first recording. We are recording this on a phone. So hopefully you can hear me okay and the quality is okay. We shall see how this goes. Right, so let's get stuck in. First of all, most important thing. Have a drink on the go. Always need a recording Negroni, as you well know. So, top 10 bottles that you will need. First one, we have some gin. Everyone loves some gin. Well, you should love some gin. So, you want a nice sort of London dry, nothing too weird and experimental with flavours. You want something just a Tanqueray. Gordon's, if you're in the UK, is entirely acceptable for mixing up with a cocktail. You don't want anything too aromatic, nothing, probably steer clear of your Hendrixes and your Affirs and things like that. Perfectly lovely in a gin and tonic, but perhaps not for your cocktail making. They have a bit too much flavour to them sometimes. Right, so you have your gin as number one. Sticking with your sort of base spirits, we also have some rum. Some lovely, lovely light rum. I see, I very nearly emptied this rum because we use it quite a lot. It was a difficult one. Dark rum, light rum. I've opted for a light rum. I do love a daiquiri. It's one of my go-to drinks, so a bottle of rum as well. Next, we have bourbon. Again, as you know, I love my red hooks. Love my red hooks. Sinead loves the Boulevardier as well, a Negroni variant using bourbon instead. This one is bullet bourbon. I can get it locally here really easily. There are hundreds of different delightfully tasty varieties out there, but they're all great. So yeah, a nice bottle of bourbon. That comes at that. The last for our base spirits, a lovely bottle of tequila. Now, if you can see this one, got a very fancy label as it's got a dead person on a horse. It's very cool. So you want a bottle of that. Very nice tequila. You want your margaritas. Anything with tequila in, basically. It's very good. I can't think of what the Negroni version of with tequila is, but off the top of my head, you know what it's called?
No, I'm here, by the way.
She's there. She's just sitting there staring at me in a very off-putting way.
I'm directing.
She's directing. It's very, yeah, she's bought a big chair with her and everything. It's very fancy.
I don't know.
So anyway, so have some tequila, because everyone loves tequila, everyone loves a margarita, so some tequila. Now for the slightly less common things, potentially. Dry vermouth. Dry vermouth, my preferred brand is Dolin. Again, I can get this on Amazon, it's pretty reasonable, and it's very, very tasty. Anyone who likes a martini, who doesn't like a martini every now and again, you need some dry vermouth. Very tasty. On the opposite end of the spectrum, some red vermouth, some sweet vermouth. This gets probably more use than 90% of the bottles in this house. Red hooks, Negronis, Manhattans, all those sorts of things. So I realise I'm hiding it behind all the other bottles, so I should put it right at the front because it's very important. So some lovely red vermouth as well, sweet vermouth. Tasty, tasty. Another, what are we on now? That's our seventh bottle, I think. I've lost track already. Is some maraschino cherry liqueur. This is again a staple, goes in pretty much anything. Great with gin, you can make your Casino No. 1s, your Aviations. Again, great with bourbon, make your red hooks with this as well. You'll probably know this bottle, or normally it comes in a green bottle with like a rattan wrap around it. It's quite, you'll know if you see it. But this is a slightly cheaper version, which tastes just as lovely. So again, a maraschino cherry liqueur, a bit of fruity flavouring going on there. Sticking with the fruity flavourings, we have some triple sec. This is a Cointreau brand, but yeah, triple sec, curacao, all the different names for basically an orange liqueur. Again, margaritas. Trying to think of another one off the top of my head. Can't think of anything. White ladies. Yeah, Sinead in the corner again directing. White ladies. So many lovely things with a bit of Cointreau, bit of orange liqueur there. Now, if you were so inclined, you could stop there. You could make in various different combinations. So ones they're making here are, this is not including your lemon juices, your lime juices, your sugar syrups, those sorts of things. They're extra. But the boozy stuff is here. With these 8 bottles, there are a good 100 cocktails you could quite happily make and impress anyone. That'd be absolutely fantastic. If you want to push the boat out a bit more, I've got another 2 bottles that certainly make up my cocktail cabinet. They are a bit more specialist. They're a bit more niche to my tastes. Sinead wouldn't be seen dead with one of these, and I'm sure you can guess which one that is. But before we get to that, we have some Campari. Delightfully red, delightfully bitter. As you all know, I cannot function or do an episode without a Negroni in my hand, so absolutely Campari is a must in all of our cabinets here. The final 10th bottle for me, the wonderful, the magnificent and the superb green chartreuse.
Boo!
Knew that was coming. It's a marvellous thing. I know it divides a lot of people, but for me it is beautiful. A Last Word is one of the ultimate cocktails ever. So this has to be in my cabinet. Now I understand it's not going to be in everyone's, but for me this is a go-to one. For your ones, you may not, Campari, green chartreuse might not be your thing. I've left out vodka from here. I'm not a big vodka drinker. The only time I will ever have vodka is if I'm making a, forgot the word, espresso martini. Slipped out, completely went off my head then. So there you could perhaps replace those last 2 with a bottle of vodka and a bottle of a Kahlua, some sort of coffee liqueur. Espresso martinis, fantastic. So those are my top 10 recommendations for bottles to start your cocktail cabinet with. Now, as you can see behind me, this is the Poison's cabinet, cocktail cabinet. It might be a bit distant to see there. There is a huge quantities of bottles in there, the vast number of which have been used once and will never be touched again. But we buy them because they are exciting and they're interesting, and we have to make a really weird and wonderful cocktail. And they're great to experiment with, but they don't get a lot of love. So I think potentially in a future video, we might have my top 10, just really don't bother, bottles. Or if you're going to, split it between a big group of friends. Buy one bottle between 10 of you and decant it out or something, and it'll last you for years. Still got a bottle of banana liqueur in there. I think it was like episode 4 or 5 we used that. It's still sitting in the cupboard, hasn't been touched since. So things like that you don't need to worry about. Right, we're going to take a quick break and then we're going to come back and I'm going to talk you through some cocktail kit, what you might need to create your lovely, lovely things. Right, so as if by magic, all the bottles have moved to the side of the table. So we are going to have a look at some of the kit that we have in the cabinet to make these wonderful, wonderful creations. First thing, the basic standard thing you will need, cocktail shaker. You will need a cocktail shaker. These are my preference. These are known as a Boston shaker. Boston shakers can come with 1 tin and 1 glass half. I don't like the glass half. I'm always terrified of smashing it when you're trying to get it open and it cutting your hands off. So I prefer the 2 metal tins. Go together like that, create a fantastic seal, shaky, 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 and then come apart quite easily. So that's my go-to shaker, and I've got a couple of different ones in the cupboard for making lots of different cocktails. There are different varieties of cocktail shakers you can get. So you also have one that's known as a cobbler, which is probably the more traditional. When you think of a cocktail shaker, it's probably what you think of. It's the one that comes in 3 parts. So you have your body, you have like a dome top with a filter, so a strainer built into it, and a little cap that sits on top. That's known as a cobbler. They're perfect. They make one cocktail. You can't really get much more than 1 drink in them, and they're perfectly serviceable. My preference is a Boston tins on there. With your Boston tin, you will also need strainers. You need something to keep all the ice and pulp and egg bits and pieces, whatever you've got in your tins, out of your glass. So the first thing we have is a strainer like this. I don't know if you can see this. We've got a springy bit on the end. This is called a Hawthorne strainer. Come in a variety of different sizes. Basically, generally, the tighter the spring, the better. Some of the cheaper ones you buy will have a really, really loose spring, and they will let chunks of ice and all that sort of stuff through. So you want to get one with a tighter spring as possible, so you're really keeping all the bits you don't want in your glass in your shaker and straining out just the liquid. So that will just sit over the top of your strainer, of your tins, and then just blip straight out. Something else, if you're really going for a smooth drink, a mesh strainer, a fine strainer. Again, I bought this because it's the same colour and I got carried away being fancy. But a tea strainer, anything like that will do. And again, it really helps, especially if you're using fruit juices, to keep any little tiny bits of pulp or pips or anything like that out of your drink. So one of those is very handy as well. So you can pick up these for a couple of pounds or something, or a few dollars. They're very, very cheap, but well worth it. So we have those bits.
And your boiler's just kicked in, so if the noise sounds weird now.
Right, well, on that note. Right, so as an alternative to shaking, if you're not going to shake your cocktail, it is more than likely you're going to stir your cocktail. In which case you will need something like this. A mixing glass. This is quite nice. This does a couple of cocktails. I'm not sure the volume of this one. You can get them in different sizes. This will do 2 quite comfortably. And it's got a nice spout for easy pouring on there. So you fill that with ice, put your beverages, your liqueurs in there, and give them a nice stir to get them really chilled down. With your very handy long spoon. Always handy to have a long spoon for stirring purposes. I don't know why that's funny. Why is a long spoon funny? Apparently it's funny. I don't know why. Unprofessional behaviour going on here. Unprofessional. Not impressed. So yes, long spoon. To strain out, once you have got your nicely chilled cocktail in your glass, you can absolutely use a Hawthorne strainer, chuck that in and strain out, not a bother. However, because I'm generally pretentious, I've got a different type of strainer which is specialist for that, and this is known as a julep strainer, which will sit, again, say no spring or anything like that, because when you're stirring a cocktail, you're not going to smash your ice up like you will when you're shaking it. So generally your ice is going to remain in much larger chunks and doesn't need a really, really fine straining. So that will just sit on in your glass and nicely pour out with the minimum of fuss. But I hear you ask, I do. When do you shake and when do you stir? So Sinead's laughing at me again. I'm trying to be entertaining. When would you use a shaker? When will you stir it? There's another question. Generally, if you are using fruit juices or egg or anything like that, shake it. You need to shake it to really get the flavours going, especially with egg, you need to get the foaminess going. But any sort of fruit juices, shake. If you are just going for pure alcohol, anything like that, quite happy stirring it. So anything like your Negronis, your Red Hooks, your Martinis, things like that, you can stir. Anything with fruit juices, I would shake. That is generally my rule of thumb. There are some vague exceptions to that, but yeah, that's the general rule of thumb, I would say. The last thing you will need... Oh, sorry, I thought you were...
I just moved my hand.
The last thing you will need to complete your cocktail journey are some jiggers. A way to measure out your ingredients. These again come in a variety of different styles and sizes. These sort of conical ones are known as Japanese jiggers. I've got 2 different sizes here. This one does 1.5 ounces at the top, and then it does 1 ounce at the bottom, and inside there are measurements for a 3/4 and a 1/2 ounce measurement as well, so you can really get some detailed measurements on those. And then I've got a slightly smaller one as well, and I think this is a 3/4 ounce and a 1/2 ounce with a 1/4 ounce measurement inside, so you're really covering all bases with those 2. I have another style of one here. Not sure what this one's called, to be honest. It's quite nice. I bought it because it matched the copper, so why not? And again, this has got measurements inside, which will give you your different quantities. I've got a few other ones in the cupboard as well, some little plastic ones with all sorts of measurements on. The difficulty you'll find with these ones is you don't get a third, which is really annoying, because some recipes call for a third of something, and generally you don't get that on that, so it's either a bit of guesswork or using something else. But that is your last bit of kit you will need, is your jiggers. Yeah, so I think that is pretty much your basic cocktail equipment that you will need. We will continue making a few more videos. We're going to make some cocktails next. We'll go through, and with these bottles, what are the sort of cocktails you can make, and we'll do that, and we'll have some tries. But yeah, thank you so much for watching the first Poisonous Cabinet cocktail video. It's very, very weird doing this, but I hope it's been informative and vaguely entertaining. So yeah, let us know what you think. Anything you want us to cover with more videos apart from cocktails and things. I'm sure Sinead is itching to get on the screen, so she'll be more than happy to do something. So there we go. Try keeping her off, but yeah, we will be back with some more cocktail videos. So yeah, thanks for joining us. Anything else I can do for you?
No, I'm just
Jump through some more hoops.
First video, you're acting like bloody Gloria Swanson.
Make up!